Welcome back. This is Billy with Coach Dooley's List. And once again, if you are enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe to the YouTube page and follow along on all of our social media channels. Today, I am here at Brookwood High School with head baseball coach Robby Gilbert. Coach, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And again, we said before we walked in, I love just getting to sit and talk with coaches, and you have taken on some things. One thing I've actually wanted to talk a little bit about, we'll hop into, is just what coaches do in their free time. And I get to see you on TikTok several times, and you do a couple things on there that I really enjoy, the barbecuing and the baseball cards. We'll get into that in a second, but I always ask just, tell everybody about your coaching journey and how you ended up here in Brookwood.
Yeah, so I started off at Tucker High School. I actually graduated from Tucker in 1993, and about 2000 decided I wanted to get into coaching, and I was fortunate enough to get hired by David Roman, who coached me in high school and got me a job coaching, and actually got a job in the building as a para. And it's kind of where it took off, and spent 17 years there coaching football and baseball. And then I was able to get a head coaching job, my first one at Decatur High School, and moved over there in January of 2017. So middle of the school year, moved over from Tucker to Decatur and was there for 6 years. And then I was fortunate enough to get hired here, Brookwood, and when Jason Dobson called me, and the AD here, it's just one of those places you're always going to listen to. And I was fortunate enough to get the job and the opportunity. It's been a blessing. It's no better place to be.
Now, I have to ask, I love making these connections. Was Patrick Pass there when you were there?
So Patrick Pass was a freshman, when I was a senior at Tucker, and, we knew then that he was going to be a great player. And so he started on the varsity baseball team for us. We were 25-3. My senior year, of course, then you had to win the region to go to the playoffs.
Yep.
It's just a little bit different. So he kind of started in the Elite Eight and whatnot. So, yeah, so Patrick was there, and a heck of a ball player as a freshman, and obviously, went on to do great things.
His senior year, we played there, and I was catching. He hit a routine pop fly to left field. It was so high, our left fielder got spun around. It landed right in front of him. Routine. He was on third when it hit the ground.
Yeah.
And I remember going, how did that happen? And, there's no video back in 1996, I think, so we didn't get it. But, in coaching for I know Coach Romans, I've never met him, but I've always heard a lot of great things. And then, kind of establishing yourself at Decatur, and then coming over here, you kind of change what you're coaching, what everything looks like as you get older. But what is it you want your baseball program here at Brookwood to be known for?
I think overall we want people to recognize that we play the game the right way. We play hard, but we're always going to do things the right way. We're not going to take shortcuts. We're not going to try to cheat the system per se. We're going to go out there and play hard every day and give everything we have, but we're going to do it the right way. We're going to respect the opponent and do things always, the right way.
No, I love that. And again, a lot of things I talk about with coaches is like, you have to be very intentional about those things. Like you don't just say it, you have to practice every last little thing. And I love that because the kids, you got to give them direction now. So in, your years at Tucker and then Decatur and now here, everybody's always got great coaching stories, and sometimes they're on the field, sometimes they're off. But what's one of your favorite coaching stories?
Man, so many in 25 years.
Tell as many as you want.
I think for me, 2010, 2011 year was a special year for me. I was coaching football at Tucker, baseball at Providence, and was able to win a state championship in both sports. So that was a really special year. When Franklin Stevens got to Tucker, and we did, had a lot of good success there. But one thing he invited me to do was get to know my players better. Mm-hmm. And so me coaching offensive line, I came home one night and told my wife, hey, I'm gonna invite my offensive lineman over for dinner on Thursday. And she's like, okay, well, how many's coming? And I said, I've got 8 or 9 or 10. And,
so plan for 20.
Well,
each.
Right. And, so we started doing that. And that quickly evolved to 20, 30, 40. I think at one point we maybe had 50, 60 kids.
That's awesome.
And the cool part for me and my wife was our kids were little at the time. And so, you got Thursday night football going on with college at that time. And then, they would just hang out with my kids. Right. But for me, it was outside the game. And I've tried to be real intentional on building relationships with my kids on and off the field. You know, and I tell them all the time, sports is only going to last for so long, even for ones who play professionally, right? Yep. You've got to be a great individual, you know, off the field as well, and do things the right way, because you know, this world's difficult. Even as adults, it's difficult. And it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, you still got to be able to be functional and be a great husband and a father and a coworker. And so we were able to build those relationships, and so I still do that to this day. You know, I still have I'll start with the seniors and then bring them over. We'll have a dinner, but I just open up my house. You know, and I think that's just been really good for me and good for our kids. So.
No, and I love too, because anytime you can get with your kids off the field, you know, because it can get intense, and you know, but when they see you in a different way, they're going to work harder for you. They know you care about them. All the things we always hear all the time. So,
and let me just elaborate on that. The funny part of that whole thing is, and again, Tucker, we were exceptional. We had really good players and professional players eventually, but one in particular, AJ Bouye, who played for the Texans and the Jaguars and played for Denver. He actually came back one year and brought one of his teammates from professional, and walked in my room and was telling me that he told in the clubhouse for the Texans about my wife, Miss Amy, and her cooking. That's awesome. Still talking about it in a professional locker room, which meant a lot to me, because again, that was off the field stuff that you know, carried with him.
Oh yeah, no, and those are always the best when you have the ones come back. Yep. And I tell a lot of the young coaches nowadays, it's like, you don't realize what you're doing, what you mean for kids, until they do come back later on, or you run into them in Kroger or Walmart or things like that, and they just say, "Oh, you remember these times?" Yep. And a lot of times you forget because you've been doing it for so long. Right. But those are always great to hear. So, you know, and building those relationships with those kids, I know you probably had several that have gone on to coach, but if any kid ever came and said, "Hey, you know, Coach Gilbert, I want to be a head coach one day," what advice would you give them?
Be ready to work hard. Don't think you're above doing anything.
Right.
You know, when I first started, I cut grass, I lined fields, I did film work, I did whatever was asked of me. As a young coach. You know, I mean, my wife used to give me grief all the time because the fields at school looked a lot better than the yard at the house, right?
Guilty.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but you're up there cutting it 2 or 3 times a week, and that would be probably the biggest thing is just jump into it, right, and don't be afraid to do everything. You know, as a head coach, I think you got to surround yourself with good people, right? You got to be able to surround yourself with good people. You got to be able to delegate stuff. You can't do it all,
right?
There's just no way to do it all. But have good people around you that you're going to trust to do what you've asked them to do. So I think those are the biggest things.
No, I love that too. And then kind of going back to what I talked about at the beginning, you know, one thing I try, I always forget to ask coaches too, but one of the big things for young coaches is not knowing how to spend free time. And, you know, I always try to remember to bring this up, and I don't always. So, you know, I bring up your baseball cards and your barbecuing on TikTok and stuff, but what are some things you do in your free time aside from that, or are you going to elaborate on those things that just kind of, you know, keep you fresh for the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to get away from the game.
Yep.
You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like when you put the time in that we put in for our programs, it's okay to get away when you have that opportunity. So yeah, I enjoy traveling. I love going places with my family. We love the beach. I just completed going to all 30 major league ballparks.
That's awesome.
That was a big goal of mine. It just always has been. So I finished that in August out in Colorado and got to share it with a bunch of my friends who went with me. The cooking part kind of started during COVID, right?
Okay.
You know, we're all at home and you're teaching on a computer and you got a lot of downtime. And so I bought my first Blackstone and kind of fiddled around with it and, you know, just kind of took it off from there, you know, and it was like, you know what, why not video this stuff? My whole goal is if I could put a smile on one person's face, then I feel like I've had an accomplishment, right?
Yep.
And that's just kind of how I've lived. I've always just tried to be a very upbeat person. I've been very blessed throughout my life. I get to do what I love to do every day. I get to do it with people that I love being around. You know, so that's been, you know, the cooking part's kind of been a fun thing. I don't get to do it as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, baseball cards have always been a part of my life. Sports cards really in general, right? And, you know, as I've done some videos of opening packs and stuff here lately, it's been cool to open up older things and see the guys that we grew up watching, right? And like I opened up, card yesterday and got Dale Murphy. Like that was the guy for me as a Georgia guy that I grew up watching. I tried to emulate his swing, and so those are the things I enjoy doing. I can't afford the sports card stuff these days, like the high end stuff. It's just crazy,
You just hope you get it out of a pack.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But even then, when you just buy a pack, your chances aren't very good. But every now and then, I'll pick up a pack of cards just to open it. My son and I will do it every now and then, and he's 27 now and working here and coaching for me, which has been special.
That's
and
awesome.
My daughter's 24, played college softball, finished in school now. They kind of enjoy it as well.
Oh, so both of them are into it.
I mean, I'd say more obviously my son than my daughter, but we're all into sports. I mean, it's been a big part of our lives growing up.
What's the best cards you've opened besides the Dale Murphy? I saw a bunch of the '88 Donruss Diamond Kings. What's the best one that you got out?
I mean, I think obviously the Upper Deck King Griffey Jr. rookie card.
Yep.
I think that's one of the ones that just.
People still, when I go in the card shops, will buy that pack for the year, and they're always hunting that. And then the year before was the Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
and the
Michael Jordan. I mean, that's good. So, a lot of my collection, like we were talking about earlier, is of guys that I've actually coached and had the opportunity to play professionally. I think it's just cool to have their cards, and it means more to me than the common folk, right? And so that's been good.
No, those are always fun. And kind of leads me into always final questions. And once again, thank you in the spirit of John Gruden. Now, little known fact, I went to Brookwood Elementary the first year it opened in 1984.
There you go.
And I was in kindergarten, and the yearbook is still in there. I was up there a couple years ago, and it's there. So if you ever get bored, go over. So I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
I don't have any Brookwood stuff yet, but I always talk with coaches. The big reason behind these videos is to bring awareness to the website. I don't always do a great job, but just to find a way to hook coaches up with vendors. A lot of times people think it's just uniforms, but it's dirt, it's technology, it's fundraising, it's anything. So who are some vendors that you've worked with that you've loved, that you'd love to shout out to other coaches?
Yeah, I've used Mike James with Adrenaline Fundraising. I've used him since I was at Decatur. He's been good to me. Jeremy Bullington with All-Star Fields.
Yep.
He's done a lot of work on our field. He's actually going to be here at the end of this week to do some warning track stuff.
He's been at a couple places that I've followed.
Yeah, he's done a good job for us. Took care of our lips a couple of years ago, and again, like I said, we're getting warning track done here over fall break. So those have been good. We're with Baker Sports now. They've been good to us. So those are probably the three.
And all three of them are on the website, which is always good to hear. So, for coaches, check them out. Again, go to the website. But, Coach, listen, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm going to be following along your wax pack videos and your barbecues. So I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy the show. You're doing great things, and I think it's very beneficial for coaches across the board to hear the different messages from different coaches in different sports, because we're all in this together at the end of the day.
Yep.
And never be afraid to pick somebody else's brain and get something from somebody else.
For sure. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me,
brother.
Yep.